Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Tony Khan, the producer and director of WGBH's Morning Stories. Last week's podcast, if you remember, Driving Dave Weiner, was not only about Dave Weiner, it was about driving. Well, we're going to stay with the theme of driving, I think, for today's podcast as well, but driving of a special kind. Some might even say a totally mindless kind. The kind of driving in Boston, our fair city. Based on my own experience as a driver and as a pedestrian, I've learned, and I'm sure you have too, that every town has its own personality, its own driving state of mind. Like New York City. New York City, straight lanes, a grid pattern. It's all about precision. It's about speed. It's about straight lines. You drive from the gut there with eagle eyes. It's about how close can you get before you smash into the taxi. Now, Mexico City, it's about the importance of accepting death. At any moment. It's about how we're all in the hands of God, drivers and pedestrians alike, because each group attacks the other and itself all the time. You got pedestrians attacking cabs, you have cabs attacking other cabs, you have cars, of course, running over people. Sort of like Athens, except in Athens it's more about intimidation, like with drivers and pedestrians daring each other to see how close they can come to a collision. In Cairo, it's just about sitting there and making as much noise as you can. That's what driving is. And in Paris, my own rather scary experience is that it's about punishing stupidity. Well, it's actually about murder in the first degree. It's about murder with malice aforethought. If you have poor reflexes, then any driver is entitled to run you over. Now Boston. Oh, what an exception Boston is. Because of the ridiculous layout of the streets, the unlabeled main thoroughfares, the unexpected one-ways that can lead you into a black hole, the tradition of allowing even the dead to renew their licenses by mail. It's about mindlessness. The only way to get from point A to point B in Boston, wherever point B is, if you can find it, is to drive stupidly, without regard to signs, around blind corners like an idiot. In other words, the best way to get past a bad driver, Boston has proved to us, is to drive even worse. But Boston goes even one step further. Not only is the driving bad, the parking is even worse than the driving, especially during the winter when it snows hard. Well, Mary Kokel is today's storyteller. She lives in Somerville, Massachusetts, a town that calls itself America's hometown. It's very near Boston, and it's very much under the sphere of influence, if you can call it that, of Boston driving and parking. And her morning story today we call Taking It to the Street.
5 winters ago, I slipped on an icy sidewalk and broke my leg. In the town of Somerville where I live, being confined to your apartment for the rest of the winter in a cast is not all bad news. For one thing, you don't have to keep shoveling your car out and losing the space the second you drive away. With each snowfall, the games begin. People clear their parking spot with a shovel and establish title with what I call a territorial marker, or TM. An orange highway cone, a table, or a broken-down beach chair from the summer of 1974. Sometimes the whole street looks like a frozen yard sale or an outdoor chair museum. I heard somebody in South Boston left a toilet to mark his spot. I personally like to use my discarded Christmas tree as a TM until the DPW truck collects it sometime in February.
That is my spot.
No, it's not your spot.
6
Is
hours.
your name
6 hours
on that spot?
One cold night while propped up in bed, I heard the muffled shouts of a confrontation outside.
Imaginary.
Soon, blue and white lights began pulsating along the wall. I rolled over to lift my window shade and check out the action.
My
parents lived here.
I have a right.
They parked their
Anyone
car
and everyone here has
for
the right
20
to park
years.
anywhere.
The angry pickup truck driver who lived upstairs from me was arguing with my neighbor, the SUV, from across the street.
I'm going to get my crowbar.
Whoa! Listen to the big man!
The cops hauled away someone from SUV's house. Pickup guy and his girlfriend walked back toward the triple-decker where we live. They clomped up the stairs like a couple of tired horses, slammed their door, and shook my wall, like always. More footsteps on the ceiling.
Hey, did you hear what was going on outside?
It was Pickup Guy calling to fill me in on his side of the story. It turned out that his girlfriend had parked in the shoveled spot of the SUV neighbor. The so they scratched her car in retaliation.
He shoveled it out and
Then the
had a
cops
little
took away
cone
the
there,
SUV
right?
daughter
You know?
since she became belligerent.
Well, what is this?
SUV dad was now very upset and making serious
I'm
threats
calling
to
the
pickup
cops.
guy
Can I
after the
get you
cops
to-
left.
To support me on this?
Pickup guy and girlfriend were leaving for the night out of fear SUV was coming to get them. I felt like Jimmy Stewart in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, a professional photographer, incapacitated by a broken leg, in serious danger for knowing too much. I called some friends with a list of potential suspects if I were found dead the next morning. 5 winters have passed since then, and I'm back in the parking game like nothing has changed. Actually, one new TM from Highland Avenue really caught my attention recently. It was a blue Somerville Recycles bin, filled with sand or ice, with an old broom handle staked in the middle of it. Atop the handle, a beat-up American flag flapped in the ice-cold wind. The crusty snowbanks on either side added to the effect that it might have come from the archives of the Apollo moon landings. Whoever did this was taking over the parking spot in the name of the United States of America. If you want to park here, it says, you'll have to move the flag, and nobody messes with the flag.
Did he just throw a snowball at me? I'm calling the mayor.
He
I'm
better
calling the mayor.
have
Matter
not
of fact, I'm
have
gonna call
thrown
the
a
police and have
snowball
you arrested.
because I'm coming
gonna
over there
have you
with an ice pick.
arrested.
Good thing I didn't have a hammer.
Get out of my face!
That was Mary Coco with today's morning story, Taking It to the Street. Or I should say, Taking It to the Street. We'd like to drop our G's here on Morning Stories podcasts. Podcasts of WGBH's Morning Stories are made possible in part with support from Ipswitch, a leader in file transfer software. If you want more information about Ipswitch, who wouldn't? Go to their website, www.ipswitch.com. That's IPSWITCH. Oh, you know how to spell com. But Gary Mott, as a former resident of San Antonio, Texas, there's one thing in particular that drives you nuts. It's the sign that you see on most Boston streets that says, no parking here during declared snow emergency. Now, what do you think that means?
Well, I know exactly what it means. It means that the thousands of people that live in my neighborhood are going to have to move their cars elsewhere. Where? Don't know. And 5 minutes after a snow emergency is declared, you walk out, you see the meter maid out there writing tickets,
Right.
towing cars.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the justice in that?
You know why I'm not worried by all this? And you've seen this, Gary. I know
Yeah.
you've seen this. This is the only way I can explain it, was born with a parking gene.
The parking gene, yes, as displayed the other day when we drove to the Harvard Faculty Club. Cambridge, Massachusetts, worst place in the world to park.
And what happened as we drove by?
A car pulled out
I can hear the music now.
just long enough to fit your car. It was right in front of the Harvard Faculty Club. I mean,
This is the only reason why I've been able to live in Boston for 35 years. It doesn't have anything to do with my friends, my contacts, or my career. I have a parking gene.
hey,
So I have not been forced to kill some neighbor, nor have I been attacked by a neighbor because of it.
that's why I hang out with you. Maybe some of it will rub off.
Well, it's about time you started doing some of the driving. That's all I got to say here. Anyway, that's it for this week's podcast. Be sure to keep on downloading us, and we'll be sure to give you something to download. And
don't forget our website, wgbh.org/morningstories. Lots of good listening there. And also, we love getting feedback. Thanks so much to all of you who have written in to give us your praise as well as, your gripes. We've gotten, a few from folks that just haven't been too happy with what we've been doing. So.
yeah, Gary gets those. I keep the other ones.
Morning Stories at wgbh.org is our email address.
See you next week.